Here I am.
Yay! Well, hi.
Sorry about that. It went to the other account. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're inexperienced with these Instagram lives, so it's fine. Thank you for joining us, Dionne.
Thank
Um,
you for having me.
yes, yes. So I was telling our audience that this is my first live, so bear with us. But we
Mine
are,
too.
are
So
yeah, but I am super super happy to be talking to you publicly now because I think that your work, particularly the work that I included in the show, has been it was definitely one of the core pieces I think for my research and uh, as well as for the exhibition. It was a piece that was always there in the proposal. And I should share that, well, the show Tropical is Political is about the implications of the visitor economy in the Caribbean and in Caribbean cultural production. It's not only, just like Caribbean artists, but like it's artists from the region, it's artists from the region abroad as well. Well, thank you. That's the work in the show. And the exhibition reflects on the implications of this economy in our lives, in the lives of cultural producers, of artists, and it is reflected in the territory and like our approaches to the territory and to the landscape, to the picturesque as well, uh, and to people's bodies, to racialized bodies. And also another theme that is explored in the exhibition is the basically like the financial schemes that abound in the Caribbean, whether it's the Bahamas or U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Panama. It's like I think that all of our countries had at one time or another been in some international list of like suspect financial practices. So it is something that is kind of imposed and required of paradise as well. But in terms of the what kind of the tax haven and the fiscal paradise and what that implies, but it's something for which the Caribbean and islands in the Caribbean are also chastised about. Um, so that's in general like what the exhibition approaches. And I encountered your work in 2017 when I first went to the Bahamas. I think that I was actually first familiar with your newsletter.
oh, cool. Okay.
Yes, because it was a way to find out what was happening even when I wasn't there.
Right.
Um, and and then one of the reasons why I wanted to go to the Bahamas was to see this show. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the title right now, but it was curated by Natalie Willis and Richardo Barrett, and it was reflecting on Krista Thompson's
Right.
research on from the book An Eye for the Tropics.
Right.
And
Okay.
this work was in that show, which was a selection of pieces from the collection. I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about how the work came about.
Sure.
But first, and because I mentioned your newsletter and that you're a graphic designer and printmaker, all these things, like, can you just give us like, who is Dionne? How are you an artist? Why did you decide to, do this work? How do you approach it? Just give us, you.
Okay. I'll try and like really in a short little nutshell so I won't bore anyone too long. But basically, I was in high school and I all along wanted to be a lawyer. And I was intent on being a lawyer until my last year. I decided I had to take an elective course, and it was between physics and art. And I was like, I'm not taking physics. So I took art, and I discovered, absolutely unbeknownst to me, that I had an ability to draw. And so I just was pulled into that world from this one course. And I decided from there I wanted to be doing art somehow in some way. I didn't know what, but I went ahead first. But thankfully my parents supported me 100%. Went to the local university here, did uh, associates in fine art, RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, did graphic design there. And when I came home, I just went straight on into doing full-time graphic design work. I didn't even consider myself a fine artist for the longest time because I thought, oh, I'm just doing commercial work. I'm just, I'm not really an artist per se, like a fine artist of whom most of my friends were. But a lot of things changed when my life changed spiritually. I became a Christian, and basically a lot of my work is based on injustices, on social commentary, on things that come out of my spiritual awakening, if you would like to use that word. And I for the first time after that happened, I felt as if I do have a voice. I am validated as an artist. I'll just use the tool that I always use, which was my computer. And that's how I started. Before, I had done printmaking, like actual hand printmaking in university. I bought the equipment to do it. Then we had a bad hurricane and I lost all that equipment. So basically my main tool was the computer, and that's how I started. And my process is kind of different from, I guess, most professional artists who are working as fine artists. Because I work as a graphic designer, as a money-making part of my life, I don't really sit and work as a process doing fine art work. I don't kind of work things out continually in a studio every day kind of thing. What I do is I generally kind of jot down an idea if I have it. And when and if the time comes that someone asks me to be in a show, I would prepare that work for it because I'm honestly constantly busy doing my commercial stuff. And so whenever I'm asked to be a part of it or invited to be a part of something, I would create that work, because a lot of the work that I do create is quite expensive. So it's not like I can just continually create that kind of thing. I wish I could, but I don't. And so, sorry.
And in the case of this particular work, was that an invitation? Was that something for like a national
It was,
exhibition?
well, a lot of it came as inspiration, and I jotted down. And I did get an invitation. I cannot remember which show it was in, but I did get an invitation. I was like, oh, good. This is my opportunity to create this piece, because I had already kind of started creating it in my mind. And essentially how this piece came about was I was listening to the radio one day in the car driving, and the news came on, and the announcer was announcing an art exhibition about to open in a day or two. And the main artist, the exhibition was featuring one main artist. And I won't say his name, but he's a very prominent Bahamian artist. He was very well known, highly regarded, highly respected, very talented. He's actually a cousin of mine. But
Isn't everybody, right?
in the Bahamas, kind of, yeah. So and he was being interviewed, and the journalist or the reporter asked, what kind of work are we going to see in this show? What kind of show is it going to be? And that kind of thing. Clearly he was a newbie reporter, because he didn't really know what his work was like. And everyone knows this artist as being a quintessential romantic painter, Bahamian painter, meaning he paints the idyllic, beautiful images of pristine Bahamas, with the perfect beaches and the perfect trees and the beautiful poincianas and flowers. And generally, almost all of them never have people in it.
Yeah.
It's always
Actually, if we can go to the next slide, we'll see this image exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the first one of the quartet that this piece is. And so on 4 of these pieces, there are different quotes. This is real Bahamian art. What you see is what you get. Requires no explanation, and no abstract art here. These are exact quotes from the artist speaking to the reporter. When the reporter asked him, he said these things. well, this is real Bahamian art. This is what you're going to see. What you see is what you get. None of that abstract stuff. This kind of work requires no explanation, no abstract art here. So he was really being very critical of conceptual work, abstract work, anything that doesn't look like his work. And that kind of bothered me. That really upset me because at the time I'm working with the National Art Gallery, and all types of different art styles and genres and what have you are coming in and being celebrated and promoted and shown. And I was like, well, how can this person who's so well respected speak like this like he should be, yes, you can promote your work and that's fine, but you don't degrade other artists' work at the same time. And so it really was an inspiration for me to say, you know what, I have to say something about this. And basically I chose work from that artist and from two other Bahamian artists and one who's internationally known. And bear in mind, this was made in 2006, when there wasn't a huge amount of high resolution digital images of artwork online. Online was still kind of young. And so I had to use the best quality ones I could get. And basically I chose these ones because they're very indicative of what Bahamians, of what visitors, when they think of the Bahamas, they think of this beautiful tropical isle. And so all the art that comes out of it should be that too. And so I picked those things and I superimposed his words on top of these works. And it was basically trying to show the juxtaposition of the things he said on top of the works that he celebrates. And it was basically me it was this commentary on his perception of what good art is, quote unquote, versus, all the different styles and genres that are out there.
Something that I noticed, and also you being a graphic designer, it's something that I noticed more, like that there should be some intention behind the selection of fonts for the commentary on top of the works.
Yes. Are you asking?
Yeah, yeah. Like how did you come to the to choosing these ones in particular?
Honestly, it's how it makes me feel. It's something not easy to explain. I do it in my regular commercial work too, like how I choose a font. And typography and font choosing is very sensitive to me. And so I could go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds before I find the thing that I think works. It's just something that you feel and something that I feel, that I know, okay, this works. This works here. This makes sense. I'm going to go with it. And that oftentimes takes a long time, but millions of fonts. But yeah, I can't explain why I did, but it just worked why I chose those at the time.
Actually, it's funny because no abstract art here. It looks like
it's like a warehouse stamp. It's like a stamp on a box in a warehouse kind of
yes,
thing.
yes. Or maybe oh my god. A stencil, like something that would be stenciled on a
wall. That's it.
Yeah,
exactly. And so it's kind of like a graffiti on top of it as well. So it kind of lessens the regard or the appeal of what everyone supposedly thinks this is perfect and good art. And everything else is labeled not so good because it isn't representational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lately, well, I had conversations with other colleagues of yours, like John Cox or Blakuri, and they were talking to me about pop-up studios, kind of the scene in the Bahamas at the turn of the century. It sounds very ominous.
I know, right?
But it was the turn of the century, right? Like pop-up studios was a space that was established. I think it was in '99.
Okay.
I think it was in '99, and it continued until 2016, basically until Hurricane Matthew blew the roof.
Right.
And the way that it was described to me was like, that like there were changes happening, in the Bahamas at this time, in whether it was because of people had left and did like completed part of their education abroad, came back. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was a flux in terms um, of what was being considered contemporary art,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, kind of the like the possibilities
Right.
where there were more possibilities that were being explored
Right.
beyond this representational kind of idyllic, picturesque
Right. I think
image.
it has been waves, because I think definitely that era was a wave. The time before that, like the decade before that, was another wave. And before my generation, which one of our curators and scholars calls the generation of the 80s, the ones that came before us, who were my teachers, who are all of our teachers really, that was also a wave, because they, from early on, we had folks painting and creating in styles that were not representational, like realistic paintings from Kendall Hanna, Stan Bernstein.
I was gonna mention.
Yeah, all of those guys from the 50s, Max Taylor, all those guys, 50s, 60s, they came home, or they were already home, went abroad, came back, and they were representing in different ways. Brent Malone, while realistic in a lot of ways, he was expressionistic. He had lots of color and difference that was not the typical standard realistic landscape painting. And then from that generation came the set that went to RISD. A whole bunch of us went to RISD at that time. We came back with a fresh kind of new look at art. After us was then the John Cox's and the Blue Curries, and so there were waves of it. Um, it wasn't always that, and there's been a few artists who are representational, realistic. Um, and then there were always others who were doing different things too. They kind of mingled at the same time. I don't think there was always one thing. From as far as I can remember of Bahamian art history, like from Kendall and Max and Stan and Jackson, those Brent Malone, they were different. They were doing different things from that as well, even though they were all in the same time as the particular artist I was speaking who was speaking on the radio.
Yes, yes, and I should also mention that Stan Burnside right now has a show at Perrotin in New York.
That's
So
right.
anyone there can go and check it out. It was curated and I mean organized by Tavares Strawn,
Mm-hmm.
who is championing the work of this particular artist, who is
Yeah.
has been very important for Bahamian art.
He's probably the teacher of most of us. Certainly my generation. When he was teaching, he taught a lot of us. So
That,
yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that in in the exhibition that I saw this work and the work that this is appropriating, like the work that you're appropriating,
Mm-hmm.
really like it's only dialoguing with um, like the old uh, like painters who used to travel and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like it's more of a hark back to like 19th century, you know, traveler painters
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Mm-hmm. And we had those too. We had many who came through from England, Canada, the United States, who came in those early days making paintings, who were somewhere with the military, who came to document, through painting what the landscape looked like, what was here, then there were just painters, like artists who came and wanted to travel through and wanted to document what they saw and what they felt in our
Yeah.
environment. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I think that what's so important about Krista Thompson's reflection on this kind of art and about the picturesque in general is how that gaze has also framed the way that we understand ourselves and how we kind of keep repeating a certain way of presenting
Yeah.
where we're from. Um, and uh, definitely that, I mean, they might have been documenting, but also like the documentation wasn't always real, like it's also about
Or
representing
pattern.
like or factual.
Yes,
Um,
right.
so that's also like something that is key to understanding the work.
Mm,
This work in particular, the work that the artist that you are quoting is also reproducing and dialoguing with.
hmm.
So yeah, I mean,
And that,
it was one of the central pieces of the show because I thought that it was such a, such an important comment. And I mean, I think that in all of our islands, there are always these kind of, iconic images or iconic
yeah,
painters, people, because they also they're characters as well that have, these uh, that have this kind of work. And so
I'm sorry, something
I,
popped up on my screen, so I didn't hear you, but I got rid of it. So
oh
it's
no,
okay.
no, no, don't worry.
No,
No,
go ahead.
it yeah. I just wanted you to kind of uh, put this work in context with what you were producing at the time.
Right. In context with what I was producing at the time, I'm not sure I understand.
So, what else? Like, what kind of work were you? This is 2006.
Right.
What else is um, what else is happening? What other ideas are you jotting down?
Right.
Is
Okay.
this like is this part
Well, I
of
can't.
other of like what were you being attracted to in that
Right.
moment, or what are you in general attracted to in terms of like what do you write down when you say you're doing work that
Right.
is somehow a commentary, like a social
Social.
commentary?
Yeah.
What are these issues that are important to you?
Well, usually it's sorry. Usually it's anything. It is all social commentary, really, and it could be ranging from something happening in the art community, like this piece was. It could be anything politically. There's been a lot of political ones, and there's speaking about country and the social fabric of our country. I did like this series because I know I kind of do things in multiples. I like to do multiples for some reason. I'm kind of obsessed with multiples, and so I have to do it in triptychs or quadtychs or several pieces for it to feel done. But I did this series of Bahamian flag series where I did like one, two, or three pieces on the Bahamian flag, but how I changed it up. The one that's on the screen now uh, is
This
called
is part of
Birthright.
another series.
This is a part of another series called Birthright for Sale. And Birthright, as you know, it's a loaded, very heavy topic, especially in this day and age with immigration and with foreign investment. And, you know, it's a very hot topic and it's very causing a lot of, even from then, this was done when? 2011.
Yeah.
And even, I mean, for decades, it's been that way. But in this particular time, when I created this piece and the three that accompany it on the next page, it seemed as if a number of foreign investments were happening that was buying up large pieces of land, which Bahamians consider their birthright, like these large, very important pieces of land for like little to no money almost. And it was very hot in the news. It was a hot subject. Everyone was talking about it, and a lot of people were angry about it, and it upset me too. And so basically, I found I correlate, and in my work, I often use a lot of like product placements, and I kind of melded my graphic design and trying to communicate this topic in a way that people would understand and relate to immediately. And so I picked four objects for retail food products that Bahamians use a lot of. Maybe not so much the Baco bits, but certainly the Western oil, the carnation cream, certainly the Mahatma rice. That's like a staple in every single house. And I used the names of the land or the pieces of land or the areas of land that were sold. And the first one, Mayagwana, if you go back to that one, it's on a Mahatma bag. And I basically changed all of the wording that would be on the Mahatma bag to details of that sale, which and Mayaguana is one of our islands in the Bahamas. It's one of the, it's sparsely populated. Not too many people live on it, but it is populated. And they were selling like almost the whole island, if I remember. I think it was 10,000 acres of crown land for like this minimal amount of money. I'm not sure whatever happened to that deal. I don't know if it ever happened or developed, but I wanted to kind of show how governments were selling off our birthright, selling off our land as cheaply as retail products on a shelf in the food store. So that was the whole thought behind that. The next page, if Carnation was parts of Cable Beach, and the details on that.
This is Bahamar, right? Where Bahamar is now.
That is correct. Cable Beach is where Bahamar is. And it was being bought by the Chinese corporation. And it's supposed to be Carnation evaporated cream. I think calcium enriched. And I put Cable Beach evaporated land, Chinese enriched. And so basically I'm just kind of giving kind of a tongue-in-cheek, snarky kind of take on what was happening, so people could understand how this kind of thing is so important. We have to pay attention to what's happening, and it's in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, certainly something that I noticed when I was in the Bahamas was how lots of parts are like privately owned, or there are agreements, kind of like public-private ventures, or long-term leases on land. And this is something that, as a Puerto Rican and seeing what's happening here as well, is something that I relate to a lot, and we are also alarmed by it.
Yeah,
I know that in the Bahamas, as well as in Haiti, actually, and in actually, there's a Joydy Minaya's piece in the exhibition. It's called Lavadi, and Lavadi is a privately owned, or actually leased, resort area in Haiti that is administered by Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines.
Yep.
And
So we have that too. We have them too.
and
All
in the
cruise lines.
Bahamas, I know that it happens in the Bahamas as well, with Royal Caribbean, with Disney cruises, that are like leasing keys or islands.
I wish it was leasing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
it's
big
selling.
part. Yeah.
So this is, like, this might be controversial, but obviously, like, someone is benefiting.
A lot of people are benefiting.
A lot of people are benefiting from these sales.
It doesn't seem to be that it's trickling down, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of people at Department of Social Services asking for help. There's people who can't afford food in the food store. As you know, with inflation, everything has gone up around the world. So it's even more so with those of low income. And it doesn't, the atmosphere doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel hopeful. It's a very kind of charged, intense kind of thing when people are hungry and people are crying for help.
And tying it back to the selection of objects, of like this is typical foodstuffs that you would find in any home, but mostly I would say kind of more like popular.
Right. The middle one wasn't actually land. That was a Bahamian company, the telco. That was our telephone company. That was sold for a lot of people were very disappointed with how that went, as well as with Western Oil. That would have been Western Grand Bahama, which was another swath of land in Grand Bahama that was sold.
Yeah. I think it was in 1998. We also had a sale of our It was the Puerto Rico Telephone Company. It was sold in
Okay.
1998. There was a huge uproar. The employees went on strike for months, and eventually, they accepted the deal.
Yeah.
But there
Sounds
was
very
always,
similar.
yeah, there was something in. It was actually the only company that was actually profitable of the state-run
I
companies. It
believe
was
it
the
was the
only
same.
profitable.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I believe it was this, if I'm remembering correctly, it's almost the exact same thing. They were profitable. It was run by Bahamians. It was built by Bahamians, and then I think they sold it to a foreign company, but for less than what it should have been, according to some people. So yeah, very similar.
Yeah. I think that there was a trend in terms of privatization that started in like 80 to us. It finally, it
Mm.
was really instituted in the 1990s, and it depleted our resources because where the
Mm.
government could actually make some money, we just lost it, and we
Wow.
did keep the companies that were not making money. um,
Yeah.
we can keep going with the images. Let's
Sure.
continue to another slide. Oh, this is similar. I
Yeah,
can't,
this is
let
very
me see.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah. But it says
So birthright for
liquefied
sale was
natural
2000.
gas.
Mhm. So the first one you saw, birthright for sale, that was 2011. This goes way back further to 2004. So this has been happening. This has been constantly happening, and I'm just observing. I'm a social observer. I'm watching the news. I'm hearing the news. I'm seeing what's happening in the newspaper, and it's not just me. Many people are up in arms, and I basically just kind of represent the concern, the outrage, the injustice on in a print. So for this one, uh, this goes back a ways. This is almost 20 years ago, almost 18 years ago. So I'm going to try to remember. Uh, mhm. This was one of my Bahamian flag series, and it has the Bahamian, a semblance of a Bahamian flag in the background, and with the triangle and the separation. But it also is mingled with, I believe it was I can't remember why. Oh, it was American stars mixed in with the Bahamian flag. The first, and again, it was as if these things were happening and being sold off like products. You got your Vaseline, you got your oil, and these are all oil products, oil-based products. And the title of it is called Greased. Someone's getting greased on all of these
Mm-hmm.
projects, exactly,
Yeah.
which is basically their hands are getting greased to allow these things to happen. And so it's a similar kind of vein of what Birthright for Sale was. And in the shadow of each of these oil products
Mm-hmm.
is the name of that particular, it's probably hard to see on the screen, but of this
Yeah, yeah,
particular things.
yeah.
But the first one is liquefied natural gas, where they wanted to run a pipeline from Florida to here. I can't remember the specifics, but essentially at the time it was really hot news, and we didn't want it because we were afraid it was going to mess up our coral reef beds. It was going to break. It was going to be a spill, and lots of people were against it. Lots of advocacy against it, and not trying to get it to not happen. The same with the next one would have been Venice Bay development. I believe it was in Grand Bahama. Forgive me if I'm making a mistake here. It was a while ago. The Royal Crown Greece was Clifton Key development, which is if you had gone down this way, this is where Antonius Roberts has his sculptures made from uh, the trunks, the old trunks of trees. This was an old slave settlement. This was a place where
Isn't
slaves
it
were brought.
a isn't it a national park?
Well, now it is, but at the time, that's what they fought for. At the time, they wanted to make a condo development, and all of these like plantation homes, and this is where they actually came off of boats. The slaves
Wow.
came off of the boats onto the land at this spot, and they wanted to develop this into like some touristic resort or condos kind of development. And
This feels so
people
familiar, Dionne. This feels so familiar.
and people fought for it, and now that's why we have a park. Thank God. So the next one was Korean fishing boats. All of a sudden, Korean fishing boats were appearing in our waters, fishing our waters. Like, again, I'm at this point, I don't even know how, what, when, or why. They should have a commission of inquiry over it. But and the last one was Bimini Bay development, which was a similar kind of selling off of land, and a lot of people were upset about it. So basically, I'm just kind of expressing a lot of people's upset over this kind of thing.
God. It's so frustrating. Yeah. It's it's too familiar, and that's, you know, and that's concerning. um can you tell us a little bit more about the background? I A couple of slides down, we're going to see some images from the Bahamian flag series, but
Right.
what about this one in particular? What's the
Now you got me,
what's the
Marina. I'm
thinking?
trying to
What's
remember what I did.
No, like
I
what's
know
the
it was a mixture.
thinking? What was the
Yeah,
thinking
it was a.
behind these colors in particular?
It was a mixture of the Bahamian, the American, and the American flags. And I'm thinking there was an American connection in there. And I feel terrible that I don't recall exactly why I used it, but there's a reason why I do everything. I
Yeah,
mean everything.
yeah.
Everything is a choice. And so I know that there was. I need to look up my rationale again why I chose that
But
background. But it was a
but it,
part of the
yeah,
series.
but definitely, I mean, the United States has been very present in the Bahamas for a long time. Because of proximity, but also it's
Yes.
been like a very important presence in terms of, you know, like even imposing uh, like segregation in hotels, um, you know, all kinds of like cultural.
That
Um,
might have been more the British than the American, but
no, but they were serving an American audience, so it's basically like the uh,
following the Jim Crow kind of thing.
following Jim Crow. Like
Yes.
it was just
To make them comfortable.
like work. It was like if the hotel was American, it was following basically the
Sure.
like a southern uh,
I can see what you mean. Yeah. Yes.
yeah, southern ideas of
Hmm.
segregation in the area. And of course there's also in the show there is Dave Smith's painting where we
Yes.
see a representation of like
All of that.
of
Yes.
the United States and like its cultural influence in the Bahamas. So its
Absolutely.
proximity, even its part-time residents, you know, there's past and present
And
influence.
also, and also the culture through television, through movies, where, and it's certainly been a blessing for us, our proximity. Absolutely blessed by it because we're so close. People don't find it to be so hard of a journey to get to us, or too long of a journey to get to us. Just a short flight and they're in paradise. Whereas if you have to go anywhere further south, or Hawaii or Tahiti or any, those are huge investments in time to get to them. So it's been a blessing, but with everything, there's going to be the good and the bad. And certainly we've had our bad influences too.
Yeah. Um, I'm thinking about the loyalists who left the United States and went to the Bahamas because
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to still be part of the crown.
Mm. We
So
had that too, but it didn't work. When we were going to become independent, we had a particular island I wanted to stay, and it didn't pan out. Yeah.
wow, that's intense.
It's
um,
very interesting. Yeah.
so in our next slide, we have Beauty for Ashes, which
Okay.
also follows the same logic of using the commercially
Product.
available product.
Yes.
So, what can you tell us about this one?
So this one, I at the time it was happening, I was hearing a lot of stories, reading and watching a lot of stories about people changing their parents, particularly Black people. There was an account, like a lot of stories on Black women who were chemically bleaching their skin. Um, there was another one story of where these Black men were tattooing the whites of their eyes black. Don't ask me how they did that. I have no idea, but I saw pictures. I saw it. And there was like this, it wasn't a wide trend and it didn't last long, but it was certainly some of them that were doing this. There was also, lots of, uh, Botox and butt lifts and things like that, that they were just changing their appearances because of they're not happy with what they have, and they think they're going to be better by augmenting. And
Yeah,
so,
certainly skin bleaching is like super popular in like well, I
yeah,
would imagine many parts of the world, but most often heard from India. Jamaica is really big on skin
okay,
bleaching as well. Like
yeah,
a lot of its like fairness is is valued
yeah, for
in
sure.
you know.
It's the the color the color thing amongst Black people, where many feel that fair is better, and fair people think fair is better. Not all, but there's a notion that fair people have it better, they look better, um, and it's an unfortunate thing. It's a very unfortunate uh, and it actually reflects back on another piece that's, I'm not sure if you have it in the list, of a piece I did called The Bluest Eye. And it's these two are dealing with the same beauty issues, with altered appearances, with identity shame of not being happy in the skin that you're in. And um, and it's all fed, a lot of it is fed, especially now in modern times, through the indoctrination of advertising, of what you see in the movies, of what is presented as beautiful, as fair, as acceptable. Um, and that's why in this particular piece I chose these widely used products by Black people that I found in vintage advertising. These were older products, not so much the hair extensions per se, but certainly the bleaching cream, the cocoa butter formula, the African Pride hair straightening, hair relaxing. It might not have been the same actual brand name, but they had the straightening products from these old vintage advertising. And basically, I mean, some of the things that they said in the advertising back then would like completely like shut them down today. The things that they got away with saying, like one was one of the headlines was "Get rid of your unclassy ashy skin." That was cocoa butter. I couldn't believe it. And or do away with those nappy locks in favor of a more Caucasian or Eurocentric appeal. And so for this piece, to put it real quickly, I chose playing cards of the four queens. And at one time, at the same time, I'm saying these are the ideas that are crushing some women who feel like they have to change the way they look by putting on extensions, eyelashes, plumping up their lips, making their backsides bigger, making these changes to themselves that they feel will make them better. But ultimately, even if you change the outside, if the inside is not fulfilled, it's not going to be satisfying in the end. You're going to keep trying to change. You're going to keep trying to add or take away, what have you. Um, and so I use phrases from the advertising or from the vernacular of why people use these products, like using dry and ashy. I turned all the negative stereotypes on its head. That's why they're upside down.
Mm.
And also on the top of it, they're both kind of a negative thing. The changed, altered appearance is the one that's on top, that's featured as the best, whereas the natural is considered less than, is considered upside down, is considered the wrong thing. In the hands of the queens at the top are of blossoms, things that are blooming. In the hands of the queens who are upside down, they're holding dry roots. And so the roots are the ideas of these negative ideas that are blossoming into this changed and altered appearance at the top of the card. When all along they're queens anyway. But these concepts that are clouding their ideas of who they are manifesting in the way they're using these different products to change their appearance. I think I got it all.
Yeah. What were the source images for the upside down versions?
The source images, I took them. I think it's just from my research online. I took the images that were used as something that's considered not acceptable, and like the Aunt Jemima cloth for the hair extensions, the natural hair, girl, woman upside down that says picky head. That's unnatural hair. That's not considered acceptable. So she should straighten it to make it smooth and lustrous. What is it? I can't know. Smooth and silky or something. It's kind of small here. But basically the words that I use at the top are actual words that they use to describe how great this product is.
In the advertisement.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Or the commentary from customers, like, you know, the testimonials from customers kind of thing.
Of course. The quotes. Quotes around the products. Yeah, that's something that was done more in vintage advertising, I think.
That is
correct. Like they could kind of get away with really offensive quotes or really offensive comments by just presenting them as being said by a customer and not the company.
That's right. And not that it actually
and not the company.
Yeah.
Which is all probably a lie.
I think it might be, actually. Because, you know, I think so. I don't hold a whole lot of truth in that. But.
Yeah. So maybe we have time quickly for one more, and
sure.
then we can go to questions if anybody has questions.
Which one do you want to talk? Oh, this one. Sorry, I didn't see it. Okay,
Yeah.
this one is called, this is another social commentary piece, and it's called Bishops Everywhere, Not a Drop to Drink, which is playing on the quote, the saying by, I think it's Dionne, or water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Basically, in our country, we're very religious. We're a very religious society. They say it's a Christian society, but I would beg to differ, and that's why this piece came about. Is because you might be in a Christian church, but you're not acting in a Christian way or manner. And so I say we're religious. We're not necessarily Christian. Although I would probably I'd probably get shot down in the street for saying that. But this piece was a hard one for me because I actually used the images of certain religious leaders in our country in this piece. And it was hard for me because I don't, it's never my intent to bring down or tear down, but, people might beg to differ because I actually but I manipulated the image so that it's not readily apparent that who they are. At least I think I did. And I was really nervous about it because I really didn't want to disparage these men. But the words on top of their heads are the words they actually said. And
wow, that's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Because you're using both in the work that is in the exhibition and in this piece as well, and even the
advertising.
Even the advertising, you are kind of using. I mean, words are always kind of. I was gonna say weaponizing, but at the same time, it's like they're already super. Some of them are violent. Like there is some violence inherent in these like statements. They're so determined. They are so like black and white.
and I wouldn't have done it if I didn't personally hear it myself. I personally heard or read these things. And so it made me extremely angry because at the time, what was this, 2003? I was a new Christian. I was on fire. I was passionate. And I was like, these are men of the cloth. These are leaders in our Christian community. They are causing people to think that this is what God is about. And in my mind, in my new mind, young and, still with milk on it, I thought this was not right. This is not right. You can't say these things.
Right.
And so
I forget that these are almost 20 years old.
I know, I can't believe it either. So that goes to how my process is that I don't work constantly, but when I'm called to do it, I do it at the time I have to do it. And so, that aside, with this piece here, between these four leaders of the church, they said these things, which was, and I heard this on the radio, vote the way I tell you to vote or get out of my church. Worship me or I shall disgrace you. Now I'm paraphrasing. He didn't actually say that. But what he said in my presence was basically, you have to serve me. I'm paraphrasing, but you have to basically serve me, or I'm going to embarrass you. You have to do it as I say, or I'm going, that kind of thing. That was very personal because I was to a member of my family.
These are people drunk with power, basically.
I don't know them and why. I don't know them personally, but I certainly knew what was said out of their mouth at that time was not righteous. And see, when you're in a position of leadership, especially in something as sensitive, whether it's politics or religion, and you say these kinds of things, you can mess up lives really badly. This is not something to put your, as a leader of the church, as a person of God in the Christian church, you're supposed to die to your flesh. You're not supposed to have big old egos and attitudes and serve me and drive me around and put me in the best houses. Not to say that God doesn't bless like that, but I'm just saying you're not supposed to have that attitude. It's supposed to be a humble attitude, humility. And that's was not being shown in these cases. And so that's why I did that.
Very important work. So I would like to open this to the audience. If there is anyone that has a question, you can type it in really quickly right now. There's people joining us, but we're almost done. but
It'll
I
be
know,
on YouTube, right?
yeah, thank you for joining though. But this video will be available on America Society's YouTube channel, as well as its website. So basically, the exhibition has a page where all the activities, like all the events, all the videos, our pocketbook PDF, like everything is there. And you can go look it up. There have been other in the studio sessions with artists from the exhibition, and also with Nivea Pastrana Santiago, who participated in the exhibition, as well as America Society commissioned a flag from the flag series. So, on behalf of, if no one is typing any questions, we're gonna wrap this up. And thank you so much, Dionne. Thank you to the audience for joining in, and on behalf of America Society, please come and check out the exhibition. Tropical is Political will be up until December 17, and then it travels to Puerto Rico at the Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Puerto Rico, where I work, Museum of Contemporary Art in San Juan. It will open on February 18 and will last until July 30th. So we have we have way more events coming up. There's another in-person event happening in December 8th at America Society. So thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Marina. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.